I'm going to tell you something I spent the last years of my life trying to make people understand, something I became almost obsessive about, something that kept me awake at night. And I need you to listen carefully because we don't have much time. I don't mean that dramatically. I mean it literally. The window is closing. And if we don't act soon, if we don't fundamentally change how we think about ourselves and our place in the cosmos, we might not get another chance. I wasn't always this urgent about it. When I was younger, when I first started studying the planets, I was curious, excited, fascinated by the universe. I wanted to know how things worked, what Venus looked like under those clouds, whether Mars had ever been wet, whether there might be life out there somewhere. It was pure science, pure wonder. But then I started seeing patterns, disturbing patterns. And the more I learned about other planets, the more I understood about Earth. And the more I understood about Earth, the more terrified I became. Not for myself, for you, for all of us, for what we're doing and what we're not doing. And I realized that all my work, all my research, all the books and television shows and lectures, they all pointed to one thing, one message, one plea. Let me tell you how I got here. How a scientist who started out studying distant worlds ended up spending his final years begging humanity to wake up. It started with Venus, beautiful Venus, the morning star, the evening star, the brightest object in the sky after the sun and moon. For centuries, people imagined it might be a lush world, tropical, warm, maybe even inhabited. It's almost the same size as Earth, almost the same mass, our sister planet, our twin. And when I was young, we didn't know much about it. The clouds were too thick to see through. So we sent probes, Mariner, Venera. And what we found, what I helped analyze, it shocked us. Venus isn't tropical. It's hell. The surface temperature is 900 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt lead. The atmospheric pressure is 92 times Earth's. The air is thick with carbon dioxide and sulfuric acid. Nothing can survive there. Nothing. And I kept asking myself, what happened? Venus and Earth formed from the same material. They're the same age. They're the same distance from the sun, roughly. So why did one become a paradise and the other become a furnace? And as I dug deeper, as I studied the data, I found the answer. And it terrified me. Because what happened to Venus could happen here. It's called a runaway greenhouse effect. Let me explain how it works. Venus has a lot of carbon dioxide in its atmosphere. Carbon dioxide traps heat. That's basic physics. So the planet heated up. And as it heated up, any water that existed on the surface began to evaporate. Water vapor is also a greenhouse gas. So more heat got trapped, which caused more water to evaporate, which trapped more heat, which released more carbon dioxide from the rocks, which trapped more heat. A feedback loop, a runaway process. And once it started, it couldn't be stopped. The planet spiraled into an equilibrium state where the surface is hot enough to glow red, where nothing survives. Now, Earth is different. We're farther from the sun. We have oceans that absorb carbon dioxide. We have plants that convert it to oxygen. We have systems that regulate the temperature. But, and this is critical, those systems have limits. Push them too hard, too fast, and they can fail. And I watched over my lifetime, as we started pushing, we started burning fossil fuels, coal, oil, gas. We started pumping carbon dioxide into the atmosphere at rates that have no precedent in geological history. And I did the calculations. I looked at the numbers, and I realized we're running an experiment with the only planet we have. We're changing the composition of the atmosphere. We're heating the world. And we don't fully understand what happens if we push too far. I'm not saying Earth will become Venus. The mechanisms are different. But I am saying we're walking toward a cliff in the dark, and we need to stop now, before we step over the edge. Then there was the nuclear issue. In the 1,980 seconds, I worked with a team of scientists to model what would happen if there was a nuclear war. Not just the immediate explosions, not just the radiation, but what would happen to the climate. We called it nuclear winter. And what we found, what the computer model showed, was worse than anyone had imagined. A large-scale nuclear exchange would inject massive amounts of smoke and soot into the atmosphere. The smoke would rise into the stratosphere and stay there for months, maybe years. It would block sunlight. The Earth would cool dramatically. Crops would fail. Ecosystems would collapse. Even countries far from the war, countries that weren't involved, they'd starve. Billions could die. Not from the bombs, from the aftermath, from the cold, from the dark, from the starvation. I remember presenting these findings. I remember the reaction. Some people didn't want to believe it. They said we were being alarmist. They said we were exaggerating, but we weren't. We were being scientists. We were following the data. And the data said that a full-scale nuclear war was not just suicide for the countries involved. It was suicide for the species, for civilization, for most complex life on Earth. And I thought, surely, when people understand this, when they see what's at stake, they'll change course. They'll disarm. They'll step back from the brink. But they didn't. Not really. The arsenals are still there, thousands of warheads ready to launch, ready to end everything. And we just live with it. We accept it. We go about our days pretending it's not there, pretending we're safe. But we're not. We're one miscalculation, one accident, one madman away from catastrophe. And then there was the pale blue dot. In 1990, I convinced NASA to turn the Voyager 1 camera around. The spacecraft was 3.7 billion miles from Earth, about to leave the solar system forever. And I wanted one last picture, one last look at home from the edge of everything. The engineers resisted. They said it was pointless. Earth would be too small, just a pixel, maybe less. But I insisted, because I knew what that picture could do, what it could show people. When the image came back, when I saw it, I felt something profound. There it was, Earth, a pale blue dot, 0.12 pixels, suspended in a sunbeam. Everything I knew, everyone I loved, every human who had ever existed, all on that tiny point of light. And it looked so fragile, so small, so alone. And I wrote about it. I talked about it. I tried to make people see what I saw. Because when you see Earth from that perspective, when you see how small we are, how isolated, how utterly dependent on this one world, certain things become clear. The borders we fight over, they're invisible. The nations we kill for, they're constructs. The ideologies we cling to, they're temporary. But the planet, the biosphere, the thin shell of air that keeps us alive, that's real, that's permanent, and it's the only one we have. I spent years trying to communicate this perspective, trying to make people feel what I felt. And some did. Some got it, but not enough, not nearly enough. And I watched as we kept making the same mistakes, kept fighting the same wars, kept burning the same fuels, kept pretending we had infinite time and infinite resources and infinite second chances. And I realized we're not taking this seriously. We're not acting like a species that understands what's at stake. So let me tell you the one thing I begged humanity to do, the one thing that matters more than anything else, and it's this: grow up. I don't mean that condescendingly. I mean it literally. We need to grow up as a species. We need to stop acting like children. Children think short term. They want what they want now. They don't consider consequences. They don't plan ahead. They fight over toys. They blame each other. They think their parents will fix everything. But we're not children anymore. We're the dominant species on this planet. We have the power to reshape the biosphere. We have the power to destroy ourselves. And no one is coming to save us. No parents, no aliens, no divine intervention. It's just us. And we need to act like it. What does growing up mean? It means thinking long term. It means considering consequences. It means cooperation over competition. It means putting the survival of the whole above the short-term interests of the part. It means looking at the Earth not as a collection of nations, but as one system, one planet, one home. It means understanding that what happens in one place affects everywhere else, that the atmosphere doesn't recognize borders, that the ocean doesn't care about your ideology, that the climate responds to physics, not politics. It means taking responsibility, We cause these problems. Climate change, nuclear weapons, habitat destruction, species extinction. We did this, not some external force, not some act of nature. Us, our choices, our industries, our consumption. And that means we can fix it. We have the knowledge. We have the technology. What we lack is the will, the collective decision to prioritize survival over profit, over convenience, over the illusion that someone else will handle it. I spend so much time studying other planets, dead planets. Mars, once wet, now dry. Venus, once temperate, now hellish. And I kept thinking, they're warnings. They're showing us what can happen when planetary systems go out of balance, when feedback loops spiral out of control, when a world crosses a threshold it can't come back from. And I kept thinking, we still have a chance. Earth is still habitable, still beautiful, still capable of supporting billions of people and millions of species. But that window is closing. And once it closes, it might not open again. People ask me, how much time do we have? And I can't give you an exact answer. No one can. Climate systems are complex, tipping points are hard to predict, but I can tell you this. We're already seeing the effects. Glaciers melting, sea levels rising, weather patterns changing, ecosystems shifting. And these are just the early signs, the beginning. If we keep going the way we're going, if we keep adding carbon to the atmosphere, keep heating the planet, keep pretending it's not happening, we will reach a point where the changes become self-sustaining, where we lose control, where the planet goes into a new equilibrium state that we didn't choose and can't reverse. And it's not just climate, it's everything. Nuclear weapons, still there, still ready, still a threat. Biodiversity loss. We're in the middle of the 6th mass extinction. Species are disappearing at rates not seen since the dinosaurs died out, and we're causing it. Habitat destruction, pollution, overfishing, overhunting. We're dismantling the web of life that supports us, and we're doing it knowingly. We have the data, we have the science, and we're still doing it. I used to have nightmares about this. I dreamed that I was standing on a hill watching a city in the distance, and I could see a wave coming, a tsunami, and I was shouting, warning people, telling them to run, but they couldn't hear me, or they didn't believe me, and the wave kept coming, and I woke up feeling helpless, frustrated, angry, because I knew what was coming. I could see it in the data, in the trends, in the feedback loops, and I couldn't make people understand the urgency, but then I'd remember something that kept me going. Humans are capable of incredible things. When we're motivated, when we're united, when we understand what's at stake. We've solved problems before. We've changed course before. We eliminated smallpox. We repaired the ozone layer. We've built civilizations, created art, explored space. We're clever. We're adaptable. We're resilient. And if we can just recognize the threat, if we can just take it seriously, we can handle this. We can solve this. It's not too late, not yet. But we need to act now, not tomorrow, not next year, now. We need to transition away from fossil fuels rapidly. We need to invest in renewable energy, solar, wind, nuclear, whatever works. We need to protect ecosystems, reforest, restore habitats, stop the bleeding. We need to negotiate nuclear disarmament, reduce the arsenals, eliminate the threat. We need to cooperate across borders, share technology, share resources, because this is not a national problem, it's a planetary problem, and it requires a planetary response. And we need to change how we think, how we see ourselves. We're not separate from nature. We are nature. We're not above the rules. We're subject to them. We're part of the biosphere, part of the ecosystem. And when we damage it, we damage ourselves. When we poison the air, we breathe that air. When we heat the planet, we live on that planet. When we destroy species, we weaken the web that supports us. There's no escape, no plan B, no second Earth waiting in reserve. I've been asked, why do you care so much? Why spend your final years on this? Why not just enjoy retirement? And my answer is simple, because I've seen other worlds. I've studied dead planets, and I know what we have here is rare, maybe incredibly rare. Maybe we're the only place in the galaxy where life has become conscious, where the universe has developed the ability to know itself. And if that's true, if we're it, then we have a responsibility, not to some external authority, to ourselves, to the future, to the possibility that consciousness, that intelligence, that beauty, that it continues. I won't live to see how this turns out. I know that. I'm old. I'm sick. My time is limited. But yours isn't. Not yet. You still have the chance to change the trajectory, to make the choice, to grow up, to take responsibility, to look at that pale blue dot and understand what it means. That's home. That's us. And we're the only ones who can protect it. So here's what I'm asking, what I'm begging you to do. Stop pretending this isn't happening. Stop pretending someone else will fix it. Stop prioritizing short-term comfort over long-term survival. Look at the evidence, look at the science, and then act. Vote for leaders who take this seriously. Support policies that address climate change. Reduce your own consumption where you can. Talk to people. Educate. Advocate. Pressure institutions. Corporations. Governments. Make them understand that business as usual is suicide. And more than that, change your perspective. See yourself as part of something larger. Part of a species, part of a planet, part of a cosmos. You're not just an individual. You're a representative of humanity. And what you do matters. What we all do matters. We're writing the story right now. We're deciding whether we're the species that survives, the species that grows up, the species that looks at the challenges ahead and says, yes, this is hard. Yes, this requires sacrifice, but we're going to do it anyway because the alternative is unacceptable. I've spent my life studying the stars, wondering if there's anyone else out there, wondering if we're alone. And I still don't know, but I do know this. If we destroy ourselves, if we squander this chance, if we let ignorance and greed and tribalism drive us off the cliff, then we'll have answered the Fermi paradox. We'll have proven that intelligence is self-limiting, that species reach a certain level of technology and then destroy themselves, that the galaxy is quiet because everyone fails this test. Everyone crosses the line, everyone runs the experiment and gets the wrong result. But it doesn't have to be that way. We can be the ones who make it, the ones who survive, the ones who look back centuries from now and say, that was close. We almost didn't make it, but we changed course. We grew up. We saved ourselves. We can be the civilization that lasts, that spreads, that explores, that continues. But only if we act, only if we take this seriously, only if we do the one thing that matters most. Grow up, take responsibility, protect the only home you've ever known before it's too late. I've done my part. I've warned you. I've shown you the data. I've tried to give you the perspective. Now it's up to you, to all of you. The future isn't written yet. It's being written right now by every choice we make, every action we take, every decision we prioritize. And I'm begging you, please, make the right choice. Look at that pale blue dot. That's where everyone you love lives. That's where every hope, every dream, every possibility exists. And it's fragile. So fragile. Please, please take care of it. That's all I'm asking. That's all I've ever asked.